I was just in your position last year. So a few things that are on my top three of probably I could have a top 10 is to really examine and look at the job descriptions and read through them. I used it almost sort of like I was taking notes. I would highlight certain areas that were, those main criteria that they're really looking for in one color, and then maybe using another color to look at those preferred, descriptions. So really print them out, write on them, put some examples of things that you can put in your cover letter. That's just really, really meaningful. I also made separate folders on my, computer, my drive for each place that I was applying to. That helps you to keep it straight and make sure that you don't make any boo-boos when you write your cover letter. And as far as your cover letter goes, one of the challenges, especially those of us in education, is to speak highly of ourselves. We want to do that for our students, but it's very hard to do that on this end. So try to write your cover letter as though you are a really good friend or a colleague that knows you really well, or a professor that has really helped you and guided you. Try to write from their perspective. And that way you'll be surprised at some of the experiences that you've had, the events that you've led, etc., as you're writing that. And then lastly, to get some feedback on your cover letter, on your CV from peers that you trust, professors. It is really, a lot of these universities, they're receiving so many papers. You really want to stand out. And you want to get a perspective of someone who may not be in the education field. Everyone on the committee may not be exactly in the department that you are wanting to apply to. So you want to get feedback from others. How does it read? As far as even as grammar, listening to some of those, critical friends and getting their insights. It doesn't mean that you're going to use all of their suggestions, but really just take to heart what they're meaning and figure out what you should put into the cover letter. That's most important, because I think that it says a lot about your background and your experience and how you'll fit into that program. So those are my top three for now.
Thank you, Dr. McCurdy. Dr. Aguilar.
Yes, I would like to say, and so you understand a little bit where I'm coming from. I have been sharing the part-time 1-year appointments for about 3 years now. And what my colleague just said about like read the ad is so relevant, guys. De verdad, really. Like don't just kind of, read it like fast. Just sit down, highlight things, and make sure you are a good fit for that position that you're applying, right? Don't just apply like crazy, because I know how it feels. I was there about 5 years ago. As I know you're about to graduate and you need and you want a job, right? But you really want to find that job that is good for you, right? So read, right? Check really carefully like what this institution or this employer is looking for, what exactly they need, right? And once you have that in mind, please look, get your CV, as my colleague was just saying, put it in a folder and highlight that. Or this is something that I did when I was applying to different positions. You might have different folders, right? And maybe, if there's like ads that are kind of looking for a very specific, really research focused person, then you might have like a CV focusing on research, right? So this is your research CV, right? If maybe someone else is looking more like a teaching position, when then you have a CV that is, is highlighting your strengths in teaching. Or maybe you have one CV that is a combination of both, right? But try to highlight on your CV that you're sending, right, to this institution, this employer, whatever they're looking for. Because trust me, after doing this for a while, the very first thing is I'm looking like, okay, does this person have the skills that we're looking? And trust me, it is different when you kind of interview the person, right? But the first set of paper that we look is the CV, the cover letter, right? You go through, okay, and I'm gonna be honest, it's not like you spend 10 minutes in each, CV. When you kind of start looking into so many papers, right? You're going fast, right? So this is a good advice that really please take it, right? Don't be like that person. One time we were looking for a math educator and we got a psychologist applying for a position, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe this person got the wrong position here, right? Maybe the other department were looking for a psychologist. So this is a good thing. One more last comment. If you pass the first filter, if you pass, all the filters, you get all the way to the interview. Like, let's say the first interview, right? Sometime, many times, it's just a virtual kind of first interview before you go to the visit. Get ready, guys. Sit down and prepare. Go to the website, the institution website. Read the mission, the vision. Maybe you can have it behind your screen so you can have it right there, right? Try to, whatever you're going to say, relate your strengths with the mission, with the vision of the institution. Try to look for a little bit of, you can get the names of the committee. Get those names. Look what they're doing. Look what their research. Trust me, it really kind of impressed when one person is looking for a job, like, yes, I would like to do research with Dr. whatever, similar to what he or she is doing. That really calls the attention. And I'm telling you, not everybody does that, right? So these are my three kind of top advices for now. And I just gonna leave it open for questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aguilar. Dr. Smith-Mutegi.
Hi, everyone. So just to kind of add to what my colleagues have shared, couldn't agree with them more. So I think that, after you have identified what you're able to offer the institution or the employer, you want to make sure it's a good fit. You want to think about, well, what can they offer you? And what can this, for me, location was very important. So if you have any family or, other kind of life considerations that you, that might drive your decision to live in a certain place or to have a certain type of work-life balance, you want to consider that in your job search. And so if you're open to moving, you might not be open to moving. So you might be limited to what's available in your area. And if you're looking for an academic appointment, especially if it's science focused or even like math ed focused, those are limited. There's usually like one call every couple of years at a university. So you want to just kind of keep that in mind, like what would you be comfortable with? Because at the end of the day, even after you've, secured the position, you still have to go home and you still have that life. And also kind of adding to that, thinking about the balance of research, teaching, and service that you're comfortable with. Some universities have major focus on teaching and very limited focus on the research, but they still might expect a little bit of it. Usually those are going to be, institutions that have maybe like a 4-4 load, meaning you're teaching 4 courses each semester. And then you're going to have some institutions that really value or place more value on the research part of the position. And you might have a lighter teaching load, either a 1-1 or a 2-2, and in some cases also like a 2-3 or 3-3, but usually not a 4-4 load. So you want to think about, well, what do you feel comfortable with? And where would you like to spend your time and your focus? And there might be some institutions that have like a really nice balance of the three of those. I haven't found that institution yet, but it might be possible. And just kind of adding to what Dr. Aguilar said, research the institution, look and see what they're able to offer, even in terms of like thinking about benefits, and also thinking about the your colleagues, who are going to be your colleagues, because that's going to be your second space. Are there people there that you could collaborate with, or are you able to offer them something that perhaps might be a gap that they're looking to fill? I know some universities at one point were really trying to hire people who had an interest in CRT or cultural relevance, because they had that gap or that need in their university or in their departments. So pay attention to kind of those specific areas too. And then what the grad student activity looks like. So not all universities have graduate programs or doctoral programs that might be in your area. And if you feel like you might benefit from having grad student on your payroll, then you want to kind of consider that as well. So those are my top three.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much. So we have about 30 minutes left allocated for just a question and answer. So if you guys want to take yourselves off mute and ask questions, if you want to put questions in the chat, I'm more than happy to read those out. And I know that our panelists would be more than happy to answer any of those questions.
I just would like to add something. And this was more personal because I didn't know that when I was a grad student. It might sound a little least funny or kind of dumb, but I didn't know what was the 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 or 1-on-1. I had to ask my advisor, like, what does that really mean? Well, it turns out that you might be asked to teach like 3 courses in the fall, then 3 courses in the spring, or 4 courses in the fall, right? That's what it means, right? The workload, right? So I would like to add to that. If you have an interview, don't be afraid to ask questions, right? You know, as my colleague were saying, look, you need to be a good fit, but the institution need to be a good fit for you, right? We're humans. We have priorities too. So don't be afraid to ask, like, what are the benefits or what are the university kind of expectations? I don't know, whatever it is, but don't be afraid to ask questions.
I'll go ahead and ask a question first, and feel free any other participants to join in as well. But due to COVID, I'm going to my first in-person conference next month. And I want to know, what should I be doing as a graduate student to help create networking and relationships that are going to benefit me when I'm applying for jobs?
Well, I would like to start saying, like, don't be afraid to talk to anybody that is talking maybe in your field, that or someone maybe you have been reading about and is in that conference. Don't be afraid to approach and say, look, hello, I love your work. I would really like to kind of collaborate with you in whatever way. Give this person your business card. Maybe send this person an email after the conference. Don't be afraid of doing that. Trust me, nothing will happen if you just say hello, just approach to that person. Worst case scenario is that these kind of faculty or researcher would kind of pay much attention, but trust me, you might gain a lot from that. So don't be afraid of making that connection. In academia, it's all about being well connected, for teaching, for research, for hiring, for everything. So my advice on that, don't be afraid to do it.
Hi, this is Whitney, and I would like to follow up on what he just said, to send an email afterwards. So say something memorable about what you're doing so that they can attach you with something important other than, just this person that I met. And then follow up with an email because it's all about connections, no matter the job. Connections. I mean, everybody says location, 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 but really connections, connections, connections.
True. Completely agree with you.
I would say also, you know, in this virtual space with we're using Zoom a lot, you know, see if you can set up a Zoom conference or meeting with that person to say, you know, maybe spin some research ideas that you have or some questions that you have. That you know, an email, obviously an email is a great way to reach out, but after a while they just become another email. But maybe asking, you know, in the email, can we set a time in the next few weeks? I would really like to ask you some questions. And that way it can, maybe you can get something on the calendar, and that'll be a helpful way to remind that professor or, you know, researcher of, you know, someone that they want to reach out with and help and mentor.
I actually have a question, if that's all right. So I just finished graduate school, and I'm currently, you know, looking into trying to branch into the academic field as a lecturer because kind of felt burnt out after my master's and want to take a little break before I try for a PhD. So what I'm wondering is, when it comes to trying to get into the academic field, like lecturing and such, how open would you say that really is for someone who's just finished a master's? Because I have tried, but it has seemed like it's either very insular or it is very particular about timing and everything.
Well, I do kind of feel I can talk about from my experience as a sheriff committee that is hiring part-timers and one-year appointments. Look, it's all the, well, first of all, there's always a rush to hire adjuncts, faculty members, or part-timers or one-year appointments, because it's mostly based on the needs of the university. That's one thing I do want to say. So if you're looking to, you know, kind of collaborate in a particular institution, just make sure your CV and your information is in their system, right? That's my first advice for you. Second advice is, look, if you put everything else there, like, you know, you are a good, you make sure you are a good fit for the position. You put everything there and they don't answer you for some reason, just contact the kind of the department, the chair department, or the person in charge of these ads, right, of these positions. Like, look, I put my CV, I put my information there. You know, I would like to know how the kind of the process is going. So, because in my experience, right, we have really many people applying, and even committee goes over, you know, pretty much everybody, right, for an equity issue thing, right? Not everybody, you know, get the position because we only need maybe 3 or 4 or 5, right? And then we have 20 folks over there, right? So, but if you put yourself in, you know, kind of the shares loop, that person might consider you, right, for whatever position. In terms of preparation, most university, like if you're teaching undergrad, master degrees are more than enough, right? And in many cases, institutions need adjuncts in undergrad, so master would be more than enough.
Okay, and the main reason I was I'm glad to hear that, first of all, because in a lot of, I admit, in quite a few positions that I looked at, it was almost always have a PhD as a minimum requirement. So
for master, look, many institutions here at the United States are looking for people to teach either master courses or, you know, other doctoral courses. For those, just definitely need to have a PhD. For undergrad courses, you don't need it, and there's a reason muy specific that is kind of connected to the kind of accreditations, SAT or SAT. Oh, SAT, no, SAC is CACS, right? So that's the main reason why they need kind of the people teaching to have a particular credentials, right, for the accreditation. But if you have a master, you know, for undergrad will be more than enough, right? So
okay.
you should.
Thank you.
I think especially at those institutions like Dr. Smith-Mutegi was saying that are more on the teaching end, there's going to be more opportunities for those lecturing positions for master's level, those that have a master's degree. So they're out there. They are definitely out there. But just like Dr. Aguilar was saying, you would only be able to teach undergraduate students at that point.
Understood.
And there might be a way to maybe take on a couple of adjunct courses here and there. And then you kind of get to know the chair of the department and pursue maybe a full-time position later.
Understood.
Right. That's actually a good advice. Based on my experience, I can tell you we have hired like from adjunct positions to, have been with us a couple of semesters. Then, we offer them like 1, 2, or 3 years appointments, which is, a little bit more kind of, concrete, stable position.
Gotcha. Okay.
And we've got some really good advice coming in on the chat as well. So make sure you read some of that and feel free to screenshot it as well before we end this.
Maybe I should have brought a notebook.
We still have about 10 minutes left. So if anyone else has any additional questions, feel free to put them in the chat or to take yourself off mute. I am a book of questions as well. So if no one else has any more, I'll just keep asking.
I will say this. I don't know how many of you are, were working or still obviously active in the job hunt and during your dissertation, et cetera. It's almost like having a very heavy part-time job looking for a job. It's not something you can just do on the weekends or when you have some free time. It is almost sort of like blocking out hours, a couple of days every, and just being very focused and intentional on that. It will pay off, but there is some sacrifice as far as time goes because there's so much information to read through and to look at and to just, conceptualize yourself being at that space. I'd also like to suggest, you mentioned looking at the websites. Look and see if you can find some videos of the faculty and presentations they've made or lectures or anything along those lines. One of the things that was really intriguing for me, I applied to positions when there were hardly any science ed positions because of COVID, and all the departments were cutting down their financing to get, keep those jobs open. So what was really important for me, aside from being in science education, was to see the breadth of diversity, equity, and inclusion that's happening at that college and that institution. So I was able to, I digged through the websites and found a sort of like a panel conversation that they did a couple years before about diversity in their, in their college and what the panel looked like and the roles of those people there. And, my future department chair was a part of that. So really take time, watch those videos, see what they have, on YouTube and their promo, spots on their websites. They really give a great, eye view into what's happening at that college or the university, because of course they're going to put their best foot forward when they're interviewing you, but sometimes you have to do a little dig, we're researchers in science, and in math, we like to, you really find out what's happening. So it takes a little bit of time to do that, but it's well worth it.
I couldn't agree more with you, colega. And look, that will make you look good, right? When you do that and you get to, if you get to have the interview and you talk about those things that you read about the institution or what is going on or whatever is it, trust me, it make a good impression on you. Like, okay, this person at least is doing his or her homework, right? At least taking the time to do that research. Yeah, it takes time, guys, but it will pay off. Trust me.
Yeah, and be sure to have good questions, because if you, there's no way that that interview you come to the interview or even your research and find out everything it is that you want to know. So have the questions, prioritize those questions because you won't have time to ask all of them. But have the questions, and then if you get an offer, don't be afraid to negotiate the startup package.
Right.
So I'm not sure if this is something you have experience with, but in terms of my soon upcoming job search, I'm married to a non-teaching faculty member, an academic librarian. And so I think we're going to have to look at job searching at the same time. Do you have any advice to offer on that front?
Absolutely. So my husband was at one institution I was graduating, and he knew he was going to have to, resign. We were going to have to move it. So we knew that. If you get to the point of them asking for, offering you the position, ask them, what opportunities do you have for spousal hire, whatever they call it. Don't doubt that they can do something about it, because my husband, I started full-time in August, and he was able to adjunct a couple courses online. But through that connection with my department chair, and she said, well, send his resume over. January of this year, he has a full-time position. And he's not in faculty, but he's doing what he was doing at another institution where we work. Ask, ask, ask. Do not be afraid to ask. There are so many opportunities that they can send their resume to, the CV. It may be something locally, but don't feel like you have to make that a separate job hunt. I mean, it could be, but I would, if they offer you the position, ask.
Right, and I do want to add that it's not uncommon to have faculty members or staff, like people getting to the university asking for that, right? Like, look, we all are humans. We understand, right? Like if you're married, maybe you have kids. Look, right? I want my partner to be with me, right? So it's very common. If the university is giving you an offer, it's because they want you. So you might be in a position to negotiate, right? And it could be, as my colleague just mentioned, like, okay, maybe you start with an adjunct position or something, and then after maybe 1 or 2 semesters, then you get what you need for your husband, your wife, right, your partner. So just, I would say, negotiate that, ask, right? Why not? Worst case scenario is that it's not a good fit, for you and your family. So maybe you say, well, thank you, but no, right? So yeah, I will definitely ask.
For sure. And I can say that also was the same situation for us, and it worked. We both have faculty positions. My husband's position was actually he came with tenure, and he was a spousal hire. So it can happen.
Right.
And I think that's one of those parts of the job hunt that if it weren't for these types of forums, that I went to ASTE, NARS, AERA, all of them, anytime they offered something like this, I was there. This is one of those aspects that you won't get outside of that, is the spousal hire. I had no idea. Now I had really great mentoring from my dissertation committee. And so they probably would have, said that, but that's something you can negotiate. I think that's not something that you will hear very often, but definitely it never ever hurts to ask at all.
Right.
Ashley had a question in the chat. She said, other than salary, what are some common things to negotiate after receiving an offer?
Technology.
Eso. Yeah.
Graduate student help.
How much money you will get
summer teaching. There could be a plethora of things. And again, I didn't realize that. I am not the best negotiator. I never will be. But I was able to get a lot of technology. And I'll leave that to my husband, because that's sort of his field. He's like, well, ask for this and this and this and this and this. And I thought I wasn't going to get all of it. I got all of it. Because that's something that the university can use if in the event you leave, it belongs to them. And that comes from a separate budget. Graduate student help, summer teaching, always ask if it's been very stressful, can I have just 2 preps this first semester and second semester instead of 3 different preps. Or, there's all kinds of things that you can ask for to help you transition better from, graduate student life to doctoral student life.
I would like to add to that list, which is absolutely very well completed list. Look, if you have to move, don't be afraid to ask, because a lot of university, they do have a part of the package, a little bit of a budget for you to move. So if the university is not, or the institution is not telling you anything about it,
He
just
cut out on my
right.
end, so I'm assuming he cut out on y'all's too.
No, I heard it.
Oh,
Okay. So are we okay?
I think we're good.
Okay, I say so. Don't be afraid to ask for money to move, right? Because they do have a budget for that too.
And you also may want to ask for some startup funds for your research and for your travel to attend conferences. And so some universities offer that just for all of their faculty members, but they also have they have at that point probably grants that they're using to supplement their travel budget. You wouldn't necessarily have that. So you might ask for additional funds to cover the cost of your travel to disseminate research as well.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much again, panelists, my faculty members, and then also Bethany and Savannah, who shared their experience with graduate students. And for all the participants who attended, I hope that you guys got a lot of good information and advice out of this session.